Hi everyone. Before I start, and before Brian joins us, I would like to read a poem and say something a little bit about why we work the way we do. There's a poem by the wonderful poet, David White, The Well of Grief. Those who will not slip beneath the still surface of the well of grief, turning down through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink, the secret water cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. I can't right now say who it's for, but over the years, Given to Live has taken people to shows and we've lost them before they made their show to cancer or different illnesses and afterwards. But on Friday, I received a phone call from someone who trying to make this as bleak as possible, because until they want us to talk about it in a couple of weeks more clearly. Someone we took to a show took their own life, and Given to Live, when I started it, one of the things I was most emphatic about, that we are very inclusive and that mental health means an awful lot to us and to take people to shows. And that news was quite devastating for me, knowing them well over the years. And I just wanted to honour all of those that we've lost. And I know it's part of the journey of Given to Live will be that we will lose people to illness because of the way we do things. And unfortunately, this was somebody taking their own life. And it happens around us all the time, and it's something to be aware of. And artists, and Brian, you need to ask to join us now. So there should be a little thing. Brian is an amazing artist, and he's just about as good at technology as I am. So there should be a little thing, Brian, saying, I think you found it, because I see a little blob. Now I've got to, what the hell have I done? I've turned that off. I've got that bit. I've got to do this bit. There we go. Add. We should be having artist Brian Fox, as he calls himself, joining us any second. Waiting. Something's happening or not happening. We have a freeze. Hold on. Sorry, we'll try again.
No, you can't see yourself.
Oh, I'm back again, sorry. And oh, God, that was me. I put up.
I don't know what the hell happened.
I think I pushed the wrong button, Brian, or I pushed the right button, but pushed another button at the same time and didn't realize I'd done it. So my apologies to everyone who had a blank screen there to start off with. Brian, it's great to see you, man. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it very much. I was listening to you earlier, and then I went on to listen to some of your past interviews, and I got a real sense of what you do. At first, everybody, the first reaction is, this guy goes to concerts for a living. And then when you really look at what you do, it's so important for for people, and I applaud you for that, and I really am honored to be on your show because it matters what you do for people. It really does. That's what matters in life.
So I'm kind of yeah, it's quite an emotional time for me personally, and what's been going on at Given to Live, and you know, I'm meant to be sort of here telling you, you know, and interviewing you, and your first thing you do is, you know, give me such kindness. So
well, listen, it's not easy work. What you're doing, and it's grind, and nobody really sees what's going on, especially in the mental health field where not everybody knows what's going on behind closed doors and what people are going. It's that old adage, you don't know what somebody's going through, and you're digging in those trenches, and it's so important. It's just so important what you're doing, and I just want to say that to him, keep encouraging you to do it through all the crap you deal with. You know? Well, I mean, and I say that up against what you're up against and how to try to get people into the shows and the red tape of things. And I'm sure, like, taking the time to take somebody to a show means the world to them. So don't give up doing that. Please don't ever give up doing that.
I'm gonna. And there's many a time I've thought to myself, just give up. I can't do this anymore. Oh God, oh God, oh God. But we're 6 and a bit years old now, so something, you know, this crazy idea I had with absolutely zero contacts, and
yeah, it's hard.
It's yeah, but it's yeah, it does make a difference to the people that we take. I know that as well. And you've got some interesting art behind you on the wall straight away. I can see. Let's.
Yeah, I tried to find somewhere where there's light, and you think the studio would be much brighter, but it's not. And then everything glares, and there's crap everywhere. So I mean, I tried to make it cleaner. I mean, if you look around, it's all sorts of crap everywhere, and like all over the floors and all over the walls. So I apologize for the mess that it is.
Actually, I'm just going to immediately come in because there's someone, Tattoo Girl 34, whoever you are. Hello. Her first Given to Live experience was seeing Josh, a young fella who with cerebral palsy, in Philly in 2016, because we have an amazing group we have to sort of keep undercover, as it were, who raise money for us, and they in the States. And I said, well, do you want us to use the money in the States? And we took this young fella, he was 10 at the time, Joshua, to see Pearl Jam in Philly. And it was quite remarkable watching him, and, you know, there with his mum and his dad, and he actually, the sort of perspex rail thing, whatever you want to call it, at the front of the ADA section. At one point, he's actually holding it and standing, and his mum just turned to me and said he's standing for the first time in his life. Yeah. Wow. And he would watch the crowd, and you could see him understanding that you put your hands in the air at different points, and it was kind of like, so he's seeing his favorite band. And I mean, the beautiful story is you know, and his mum, you know, not everyone stays in contact and that, but I mean, and yeah, and it was, and somehow, well, you know, Love Boat Captain was dedicated to him.
Wow.
Yeah, which was really awesome. And but his mum would tell me stories of how she would have to play song. At one point, she was playing the song Yellow Ledbetter 23, 25, 35 times a day. And it wouldn't be that you could have that just a version. It would have to be a specific version from a specific bootleg, and they'd have to try and translate through his sort of way of, what the hell does he mean? Green, the green, and that's like, oh, what the hell's the green one? And it mean, and so yeah, yeah. And that was, I mean, that was, yeah, very special for us. And that's kind of, I don't like doing the self PR thing, but it's like a real good time to say, I suppose, that we're now 501c3. It's so much easier to say non-profit. But
yeah, it's a tongue twister.
Yeah, no, it's not fair. What are they doing, man? But so, yeah, so once things open up again, we'll be able to do a lot more shows out in the States. And yeah, So there we go. But we're not here to talk about me. But
You'll have to come by the studio. If you do a Boston show, come by the studio with whoever you're taking to a show.
Well, we're going to have to do a Boston show again, I think, just for that reason. And we did actually take someone to Fenway a couple of years ago to see Pearl Jam. And I don't, at the beginning I was talking about the person who took their life, but also very recently the lady that we took to that show. She had cancer, and she fought hard, but she's no longer with us as well, and it's part of the journey. But it was, visiting Boston was a lot of fun. And you are the first person who we've had on who's not a sort of show poster artist. And like immediately I'm thinking Fenway is like, you've done a lot of work with Major League Baseball. In fact, actually, I'm actually going to embarrass you now, because I know you.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We've had some chats before, and I know you're incredibly humble about, how great your art is, and you don't want to blow your own trumpet and that. But I do believe I'm talking to an award winner, aren't I? Gotcha.
Yeah, you did. It was a very big surprise. The United States Sports Academy in, I think it's Alabama. They're international. Leroy Neiman has won the award. They awarded me the International Sports Artist of the Year award this year. And among this crazy year of, 2020 should be thrown out the window. And this comes in. My manager sent me this email saying, "Hey, you've been awarded." First, I thought it was a joke. I'm like, "Nah, that's somebody's pulling your leg. That can't be true," because it's a very prestigious award. And like I said, Leroy Neiman has won it in the past. So to be included with someone like that, and another artist named Stephen Holland is just an amazing artist. And so to be in the likes of those guys it's extremely humbling. So that was a bright spot in 2020 so far. And then there's a ceremony coming up in November, hopefully, that they present this award to you and they fly you down. And it's very humbling to doing all this work with the athletes and the Major League Baseball and the NFL and hockey, and to be recognized. It's very humbling.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's really nice for me. As much as I knew it was going to kind of embarrass the hell out of you. It's nice.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
I know. Yeah, watch out. We've got a bit more time. I might have a few more tricks up my sleeve to really get you. But I just kind of, it's Fenway. There's the Big Pappy. There's which is a great piece. You're based just at you're Boston based. So it's kind of, there's lots of Celtics, there's lots of Patriots and what have you. But, one of the reasons I was put in touch with you is because you did that. You've done these amazing series of Pearl Jam print sketches.
Yeah, sketches.
Yeah. And that also started with baseball, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, because what happened was I got a call from my assistant, and he said, former Red Sox player, and he's become a friend now, but Kevin Youk emailed, and he wants to know if you'll do some. He knows you've done. He's married to Tom Brady's sister, Julie, and they're fantastic people. And he said, I know you guys. You've done a lot of work for Tom and Giselle and the Patriots and the family, and I need something special done for Eddie Vedder. He's a friend, and he this was 2014 or maybe 2015 when Pearl Jam was doing the Mexico City show. He pulled up Kevin Youk on stage, and he was holding his ukulele, but he was doing the ukulele batting stance, which is very unique. And we in Boston loved that guy and always would call him Youk, So Eddie, being a baseball fan, I guess, he knows that, and he was up there holding his ukulele, Youk, and brought Kevin up on stage, and Kevin was so honored by that and so humbled by that. I get this call to say, hey, look, can you come up with something? I want to give Eddie a special gift because he did something for me. And that in and of itself is very humbling because, you know, when somebody trusts you to do a gift or come up with something, I mean, it's stressful as well. You're going, oh my God, what am I going to do that's going to be meaningful? But that's how that started. It was Kevin asked me to do that, and he didn't come up with any ideas. He just said, come up with something. And I kind of came up with a couple of sketches and a different ideas. First, I said, you know, how about a Neil Young painting? I know Eddie's a big Neil Young fan, and I want to do something a little more personal. So I just made Eddie I drew a sketch of Eddie, but he was in Euclid's pose in a Boston uniform. And I just made up the thing about Pearl Jam being at Fenway. This is prior to them ever playing at Fenway. This was just tying it in as a you know, something to give as a gift. And that was it. I just did that's how that came about. It was just something kind of organic.
Yeah. And I know it kind of made a big splash in the Pearl Jam fan scene. And
yeah, I didn't know anything about that either. I was kind of, some people saw it, the image, and again, I probably made a few copies, just simple copies of it, just to kind of go, this is what it's a sketch, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan, even though I haven't done any gig posters or, I make things for myself that I would like. So I kind of put them on my walls, and people saw it, and I was like, you know, whatever. I don't think anybody's gonna like this, and then people started calling about. I think I made 10 copies of it. That was it, and people started looking for it, and I'm like, it's not a series, it's nothing. It's just, and I gave the backstory to it. But then charities started calling that were associated with Pearl Jam, whether it be the Wish List. Kevin Youk even used it for some of his charity events. So what I did was I sold a couple, and then it paid for me printing the people who asked for it for charity. So it was just one thing served another, and I just gave them away. I'm trying to think, the EB Foundation used it, and then Come Say Hi, Eli, who's just great boy who has EB, and you do things, you know, they would call and I'd go, yeah, I'll donate one, or I'll do something, and I would hand embellish them or do something. And so that's kind of how that took shape. It was just my, you know, love of Pearl Jam, but also somebody asked me to do a special gift for Eddie.
No, it is a really cool story. It's a really cool story. And then you've recently done a sort of a series of sketches of the whole band.
Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, and we're talking artsy fartsy, boring stuff where, you know, how I work, and it's just essentially, I do a lot of sketching, I do a lot of drawing, and I've loved Pearl Jam since they first came out. They mean a lot to the music has always meant a lot to me, and the Unplugged show has always meant a lot to me. That's, you know, a very iconic show, and so I always wanted to do something from back in the early 90s. That's actually 92. So I just did a bunch of sketches, again, of the band like that, because that represents a moment in time for me that, you know, you're going through a lot, you're a certain age, like millions of other people who respond to their music. It just meant a lot. And I just wanted to do these different sketches. And again, I showed some friends who were very much into Pearl Jam, and I said, you know, I just did a couple of copies of those too. But it was just more out of my love for doing these things than doing it to sell it. It was just more to screw around. I still got them in my sketchbook, you know?
Yeah. So. Yeah. And again, hugely popular when I've seen, you know, people have seen them, spoken about them and what have you. And like I said, you haven't done gig posters, but
no.
But I understand you've kind of maybe been talking to maybe venues or maybe bands, and
I've had conversations with, yeah, for sure. I've had conversations with other bands, not Pearl Jam, but in different venues, because they see the value of it. And then, and I usually say, well, is there a charity angle involved in it? Because if there is, then I'll do it. Or I'm more interested if there's a charity angle involved. And more often than not, there is. And again, I have to know a little bit about the charity and what they're going to do with it. And I'm more than happy to help and do something not, and again, I get my agents and stuff yelling at me going, that's not good business. And I go, I know, but at the end of the day, you're helping somebody else out. And it's not good business because I give it away. I shouldn't be saying that, but, and you know, you gotta pay your rent at the end of the day, but I don't usually do it on that. So hopefully something comes out of it where somebody sees the work, and I've been very blessed to have other folks come up and go, hey, that's really cool what you did for the charity, but can you do this for me? And it turns into maybe another job and something kind of cool. So that's been a very wild ride, and because as an artist, you especially today, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an EMT or a fireman or a policeman or somebody who's saving lives or doing something that means something. I'm an artist. I play with paint for a living. So you kind of go, what the hell am I doing? What do I contribute to people? So I try to find ways to help somebody else out. And when you can put the little drawing or painting or something that I can do in somebody's hands who has a better or broader way of helping people. So like even with Steven Tyler and his Janie's fund, you put something in his hands, he could reach millions. But you know, and then you feel better going, okay, it raised a lot of money and it helped an incredible cause. And there are so many great causes out there. There's not enough time in the day to get everything done, but you know, like I heard you talking earlier and about what you do, and those are things that nobody really sees when you're at the concert and he's standing up for the first time, and people just assume he just stands up. But for you see this person standing up for the first time. It gives me goosebumps just to kind of think about that. And you have these moments, these private moments that mean so much to somebody else, and nobody else really knows. But and that's what makes it all worth it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's kind of, you talked about, you know, it started off with like you talking of venues and bands and that. If I was, you know, if I had magical superpowers, which I don't.
You'd be in a different business if you did.
True. Oh, this would be so easy.
Right?
Yeah. I sort of like psychically sort of, you know.
I play the lottery every day and win.
Yeah, or psychically, you know, just psychically go to all the management of all the bands that we take people to, and they just go, yes. But if I had superpowers and you could do a show poster, you know, and I really heard you saying about like the charity angle and this, that, and the other. But they, you know, who would, if there were 3 bands, I could say, I can organize it. You can do a poster on a show poster this on this tour, and this tour. Who would you pick?
Well, 2 bands always, and again, I love the music. I started loving the music, and that's the one thing about being a fan of, whether it be a sports person or a band or a celebrity. When they say something, you pay attention because you're a fan first. But when they start to expose you to something that's dear to their heart, and then you get to watch them over and over and over, and they continue to help people. So Pearl Jam is definitely one of those. You look over the years, how many people have they helped? How many? I mean, they don't have to, and they do. U2 is another one. I mean, those guys do so much for so many other people. So those two bands, I've helped out Steven Tyler, who's another one who's got a huge heart. It's Janie's fund, and I've actually been able to help those guys out, and the event that those guys put on is amazing. It's out in LA. It's a Grammys party that they bring me out to, and I donate some work, and we've been able to, just with the artwork for him, it's almost $600,000 just with the art. So yeah, and listen, and that's not even what but again, here's a guy who gives of himself. You know, we see him as this rock star, but here, I mean, I see him back when nobody sees him, with these people he's helping, and how heartfelt he is, and just how great of a heart the guy has. And so you see that, you go, I want to help too. What can I do to help? And the only thing I can do is offer my painting or drawing or something. That's it. You know what I mean? Other people can do other things. So, you know, Steve Tyler and Aerosmith would be on that list, but I've helped them and been part of some big things with those guys. And it's incredibly honoring to be part of that stuff, because you see who it's helping.
Yeah. So Pearl Jam, U2, and Aerosmith.
Yeah.
That'd be, yeah. Well, as a Pearl Jam fan and an Aerosmith fan, and it's like we've chatted, you know, a few times before
Yep.
this. It's like I kind of, okay, I'm going to embarrass myself here. About midnight last night, it was pouring the rain, so I'm standing in the porch having a cigarette, but I've kind of pulled up some Aerosmith on my phone, and I'm dancing in my porch at midnight, you know, to Aerosmith, you know, to Mama Kin from that thing.
Oh, great song.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's like it's kind of like I've said to you before. It's kind of like oftentimes it's made me chatting with you about that, and Aerosmith specifically has made me feel like 22 again. You know, it's like because being really huge into them and going to shows back then and seeing them, and you know, getting pictures from you to use to promote this chat but the one I didn't use, which is absolutely my favorite of the lot, is the one you sent me of you with a Sharpie and Steven Tyler's nails.
I was actually backstage. I went to a show that he was doing, and I kind of come and go, and again, you got to understand, you know, being in the situation now when I used to live in a shed and trade my drawings for food, and now you're kind of being invited backstage and you go to these shows, and I was just kind of make sure you come back and say hello. Okay, I'll come back and say hello, and they're working. You know what I mean? We're there again as fans, and we go like, oh, it's great. But these guys are working, and they're perfectionists, and so I just try to never wear out my welcome and just kind of come and go. But I'd come back, and him and Amy, his girlfriend, were there, and he was messing around with his nails, which are painted, and at the bottom the cuticles were not painted, and he's like, yeah, they missed the spot. So I said, well, give me the Sharpie, and I started messing around with it, and it looks like I'm painting his nails, but it's with a Sharpie. It's with a Sharpie. And Amy had videotaped the whole thing and just laughing, and it was quick, and I'm like, I gotta go. I'm gonna go see the show and get ready for your show. But he's just he's a great guy. I mean, you know, he'd make you feel like a long lost cousin if you ever ran into him. He's just a good dude.
Yeah, and you mentioned about, you know, Janie's fund, and we spoke about that earlier because I wanted to know.
Yeah.
I had a general idea about it, and it's like that work. I mean, and I remember hearing that song and how it touched me when I first heard it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then it's
powerful.
It's so easy. I mean, these guys, a Steven Tyler or an Eddie Vedder, whoever you might say, you know, Bono, have so much power in so many different, and not every rock star, music star does anything with it. And then you're talking about Steven Tyler opening this thing up, you know, to help basically abused girls. And that's walking the walk, you know?
Yeah, when these guys lead by example, and they don't have to. And that's, people forget that. They don't have to, and they do. And that's you lead by example. It's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to be around. It's a great thing to be able to contribute on a small level. There are so many other people behind the scenes you don't see that go into or even donate anonymously, you know. So it's just nice to be a part of it. And at the end of the day, you feel good about, you know, helping somebody else out. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. I don't want to waste my life and realize, you know, I blew it, you know.
Well, you're not. Yeah, no, I mean, and it's interesting, there was an article here. I saw a screenshot of it somewhere in one of the sort of major newspapers here, not the tabloids, you know, because who are essential key workers, and who, you know, was the top 10 or top 5, and then the top 5 or 10 who aren't essential at this time. You know, in the UK, we had a very, very strong lockdown, and it's starting to ease now. And at the top of the least useful essential workers was artists. And I you know, okay. But I'm thinking, you know, there's your art, okay, you know, that someone, if you're stuck at home, I've got posters here, I've got arts, you know, you know, and it's like, well, you know, you're stuck at home, and then you think, how many people have been watching TV non-stop, you know, and it's actually that work has been as essential to so many people, you know,
Yeah.
who have been in lockdown, you know, who maybe have been in hospital, you know, with COVID and other illnesses. It's, you know, it's, the logic, I understand the logic of some saying that's unessential, but
Oh
actually,
yeah.
I bet you every single one who voted them to the top, I bet you they watch some TV or they've got some art in their house, which is
Yeah, we take it so much for granted we don't even realize that art has a tremendous effect on our lives, whether it be music or paintings or you know, television or acting or writing. I mean, those things are essential. And I get what they're saying. I never took offense to being at the top of the non-essential list.
No, it kind of, I mean, I remember when I saw it, it kind of amused me, and I just thought, oh my God, how many people, without promoting major online streaming services, have been binge watching left, right, and center
Oh
because
yeah.
there's nothing else to do. I mean, here we're not allowed to, you know, you were allowed at one point, we were allowed out of your house half an hour a day, you know, to
Wow.
exercise, and you were allowed to shop, and that was it. You know, so what do you do for the other 20?
Yeah, what are you filling your time with?
No, you can't see. There's been lots of comments. I don't know if you're seeing them at your.
I can't. If I put my maybe I can. That's awful. I haven't seen. I apologize.
No, that's cool. I'll just kind of some. I'll just you know.
Okay.
They'll go up and down. Someone mentioned specifically, and I think I know who it was, and I think it's Alan, who I know of, but if it's the wrong Alan, I'm sorry. Your Guns N' Roses stuff, killer, or words to that effect. I can't remember exactly what he said. You know,
he's a Guns N' Roses fan. Is that what he said?
He's and the stuff that you've done, your Slash. And
oh yeah. Again, another band I've always loved is Guns N' Roses, and it was funny because when I went to do one of Steven Tyler's events, it's again, you gotta say it's Hollywood. I'm totally out of my element out there, and we're walking this red carpet, and all these celebrities, and you get a taste of what Hollywood's like, and I'm just, you know, kind of like, okay, cool. And I'm gonna paint live. Steven had an idea to paint live and do a painting of him, but whoever bid the highest got to be put in the painting with him. Okay, so like his arm around him, he's singing, they get that original painting, he signs it, pretty kind of unique item. So I'm on stage working live during this event going on. And there, I mean, it's a star-studded event. I mean, at one point I hear, hey man, what are you doing? And I look back and it's Duff from Guns N' Roses. And at first I'm like, hey, that's Duff. So you try not to be like, hey, but I'm like, hey, listen, I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan. But we talked football. He came up and we talked for about 15 minutes about sports and football and Gronkowski and Tom Brady. And well, because being from Boston, he's a Seahawks fan. So we had a good conversation, but he was such a great guy that made my night just to talk to the guy, because you're never sure who the people you like as a fan, if they're going to be really genuine when you see them in person, because it could ruin it for you.
Yeah.
And I'm very cautious of that, but he was definitely one of the highlights of that trip. When he came over and we just started talking football for 15 minutes. A great guy. We talked about charities. We talked about different things. And really, again, I can see why Steven Tyler hangs with him. Like, he's part of that, he shows up for that because they're of like mind,
Yeah.
But Guns N' Roses is another band that I would love to do some stuff for. And years ago, I worked for a company, merchant. It's a multi-million-dollar T-shirt company, and it was merchandising for Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses. They did a lot of licensing with those guys, and we didn't create gig posters, but we created concert tour shirts, and we did all sorts of stuff with that. So, to kind of way back when have that happen, and then kind of come full circle, and you're meeting and hanging with these guys and talking with them and actually liking them. is very surreal, if nothing else, you know. And I didn't plan on doing any of this stuff. It's just kind of happened. So.
Yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, again, it's like I can't scroll back through them all, but there's been a lot. Just going to embarrass you again, you know. Lots.
I think you might have to have a TV show or something.
Just lots of people just saying how, you know, amazing your work is, you know. A lot of comments on that alone, you know, and I just went, because you're not seeing them, I just want you to know that they're, yeah.
Oh, it's very humbling, because I work in most artists, we work in a vacuum, we work in our studios, and you don't always get a lot of feedback or interaction, because it's a solitary job, and that's good, but at the same time, so when people like something I do, I always tell people it's all paint by numbers. You know, I mean, I work traditionally. I get frustrated with everything I do. Even to go back to the point where with Kevin Youkilis, and he was asking about, do I have anything Pearl Jam related that he could buy as a gift for Eddie? And I said, well, I'm working on this one painting. I've been working on it for a year. It's about 6 feet tall. It's of Eddie, but it's really not coming out the way I like it, and I don't like the painting. I love the band. It's got nothing to do, but the painting is just driving me insane. I've been doing it for a year. So at one point, he's like, "Wow!" I said, "I think I'm going to trash it." He said, "Well, don't. I'll buy it from you." And I just blowtorched the whole thing. I just took a blowtorch to this 6 foot painting and burned it, and then I just sent him a picture of it going up in flames. And he was just like, "Oh, you bastard," and laughed, you know. But I get so frustrated with the paintings that I can torture myself with it. And people have, you know, so to really your first point was people being complimentary of the work. It's humbling. It's very encouraging to me. And I really, really do appreciate that, because I can torture myself every day with this.
Yeah, and you know, having spoken to a few artists, they all say something similar, in different, or it's kind of like, you know, no piece was ever perfect. It never came out right. You know? I mean, and sometimes, you know, they always said, yeah, if I look back, there was just that one line in just the wrong place. You know, it's not like, okay, I was doing a Pearl Jam poster and, oh shit, I did it for the Who and forgot. It's like it's a line here, or yeah.
Everybody thinks it's a great job until they go, oh man, you torture yourself. You're going, yeah, it's not like, oh, I'm just painting pretty pictures all day long, and in theory that's what it is, but then, you know, I don't know how many times I've changed things or ripped things up, or I'm going to repaint it, or my manager will look at it and go, oh my God, please don't change this. And I'm like, well, I got to change it. Or I go over to somebody's house and I go, can I borrow that back? And I just want to photograph it. And then, well, I'll take it back and I'll change things on it. I'm like, it sucked before. And so it's this constant, you know, and when I hear other artists talking, I'm going, oh, thank God I'm not alone, you know, because again, it's not good business sense. It's torture.
Yeah, and you start talking about talking with other artists is what I've really picked up doing these things, is how there's a real sort of not necessarily isn't the right word, comradeship, but there's a real kind of like empathy and understanding of like that kind of the torture you go through, and there's a real willingness for people to kind of mentor and help, rather than I want to be the best kind of thing, and I don't want anyone to get anything off of me. I don't want to pass on a tip. You know, I hear some really great stuff about how artists are really encouraging of each other.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, when I was coming up and you're in college and you're in with other professors who have been fantastic about sharing their knowledge, and there's no secrets, and you know what I mean? It's like, I hope somebody else does better than me, and I'll be your biggest cheerleader. I'll tell you how I do something or what to do. And I mean, my wife is like, you're dangerous because you'll encourage somebody into going off in a direction that is, you know, and I'm like, wow, I said, if I can do it, you can do it. And life's too short to be hoarding everything to yourself. And so I have that mentality where you go, you got to help somebody else out, because I didn't get anywhere without many other people helping me who everybody in the public don't see.
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't see all the people who've encouraged you along the way. So your parents, when you're younger, and because they could either go, oh, what the hell are you doing? Get a real job. Never had that happen. So your parents, that's the key at the beginning. And then if you're married and your wife, she was a big part of, you know, yeah, you can. And she's an accountant. She's not a flaky artist like me, where you go, oh, your wife's an artist. No, she's an accountant. That's a very conservative person. So you have that encouragement. You have that. So, and then you have other people who get things done for you, who are behind the scenes. And so there are this army of people nobody sees that's behind me, that I wouldn't be where I am without them. So why shouldn't I help somebody else out? Life's too short to not do that. You know, and it's led me in all different directions. So, you know, I've done even something so far off in doing this stained glass job for, and again, I work with a stained glass company, and I could just come up with the concepts and the drawings, and it was this mansion down in Newport that is owned by Alexis DeJoria. She's a drag racing professional, and you know, and her mom came to the studio and was like, hey, we need something kind of cool for our window. And I did a Knight Templar. I mean, that's got nothing to do with sports, but you meet these people through these jobs, and they're wonderful people. And they become friends. So it's like, yeah, the job was great, but it's like, now they're my friends. It's like I have this network of people who you can count on and you talk to. That's what really matters at the end of the day. So, but if I was, oh, screw everybody, and I'm not going to teach anybody, or I'm not going to talk to anybody, and I don't think that works out in the long run. And I think you get richer for having those kind of friendships or those kind of relationships with people.
It's funny you should mention the stained glass, because there was a comment way back about a stained glass thing, and I was about to ask you, have you done just the one or loads? And then suddenly there's the comment.
Well, it was a lot of churches. I did a lot of churches. This company would restore these windows, and they would come to me and say, hey, can you do some drawings? And we'll base these. They make the windows, but I mean, I don't physically cut these. I mean, there's an art form that these guys know, and I just kind of design it. And this was kind of one of those hybrid jobs where the same company said, hey, look, we want to do, instead of doing like the Saints or St. Peter or St. you know, whatever, Anthony, this is something more fantasy or related, or more, you know, Gothic related. Can you come up with something like that? And yeah, sure, that would be kind of a cool job. But again, it starts out as a job, and then when you take time with people and talk with people and invite them into the studio, and you get to meet people, and everybody's dealing with something. So you realize you're going, all right, it's a job, but it's kind of a conduit or a bridge to, you know, meet new people.
Well, it's amazing because Janie's watching and she's saying,
oh,
yes.
Is she?
Yes.
Jamie, you're the best. She's great. I love hanging out with her. She's just fun to hang out with too. She's a good person. You know what I mean? And the stories she has is amazing. So. But yeah, thank you very much for trusting me with the job, first of all.
Well, yes, but it's kind of like, it was really cool because, you know, because I was going to mention, and then she suddenly goes, yes, it's ours. It's amazing. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of, and I think that's what it is. It's, you meet these people and you get to know them, and then that's important. People are important. You know, and that's really what it comes down to. Yeah, the jobs are fun, and everybody sees the paintings and but it's the relationships that I really do treasure more than anything else. I get to pay the rent. I get to if somebody told you, you can do what you love, and you can be around the people you love, my family and friends, but you're just going to get by. You'll just pay your rent every time, and it'll be close. Would you do it? And most people go, well, yeah. As opposed to, you're going to have all this money in the bank. You're going to have all this job security. I don't have job security. I don't have this stuff. But what I do have is those other things I mentioned, which, like you going to the concert and seeing that boy stand for the first time, you'll never forget that.
No.
I mean, think about that. You don't get paid for that, but that's something that keeps you going. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And Janie just says, And it's kind of like having a sort of three-way conversation here in a roundabout way. It's like, you know, it's saying that you're great friends, and she's just saying thank you for what you said, you know, about your
and they're
relationship.
really genuinely great people, and you know, that's how it starts. And I've been so blessed with having so many people like that. You know, when you get to meet these, even the athletes, and you got to understand these the athletes and the celebrities and stuff. They're very guarded, and they have to be, because there's so many sharks in the water, and everybody wants something from them, and they're always. I mean, when I was doing the Major League Baseball All-Star game, I had been down in the locker room, and you stand outside the locker room, and this is not in the public eye, and you see how much these ball players are being pulled, and not even being pulled by the fans. They haven't even got to the fans. They've dealt with the league pulling them in a million directions. They got the media dealing with them. They're juggling all these things. So by the time they get out to the fans don't even know that these guys have probably almost had it up to here. And yet they still do some great things with the fans. But at some point, they got to go, hey, I got to go play ball, or I got to go on stage, or I got to do these things. And as fans, we sometimes forget and go, well, what the hell? But they got to go do something. And yet we don't see all the stuff they do behind this. And they do a lot, you know. So having access to being a fly on the wall is probably the best way of putting it. Has allowed me to see what a lot of these guys do that nobody sees, a lot of people they help that nobody sees, and how much they get pulled at, and how much they have to be careful of the sharks in the water, because they're all over the place. So I feel badly for these guys a lot of times, because, you know, we see only a little part. Oh, they're on stage, everybody's cheering for them, it must be a great life. I'm sure that part is great, but there are other parts where you see and you're just going, wow. You know, and a lot of these guys can still handle themselves well. I mean, you see a Derek Jeter or Tom Brady still handle himself professionally and well, and do these things and talk to people after being pulled. I mean, that's incredible. We forget that. We go, well, you know, because we're fans of a different team, we hate them. It's like, come on, these people I see these guys do a lot.
Yeah, and it's what you're saying, you know, that's from MLB and baseball players, is like, yeah, I'm consider it a privilege that I know someone who's very close to a very big band. I'm not gonna, you know, there's no point in tooting a horn. It was just one of those things. We met, we got on, and then found out, you know, that her husband's this person, and what you're saying about the pulled in direction, some of the stories that she's told me about, it's scary, you know, it's really, it's scary what these guys, girls, whatever they are, whether it's an athlete or a rock star, whatever they do, you know, what they go through. It's, you know, and I'm a, you know, huge Pearl Jam fan, and it's kind of, there's the band, and then there's the guy, Big Pete. He's like the size of a house, and he is Ed's bodyguard, and the expression, you know, he's got his back, you know, is, without him, I know that Ed couldn't do half of what he does when he goes down to the crowd, you know, off the stage or whatever. And this guy is, and I was actually at a Ed solo show, and Ed was doing a photograph thing. I didn't want to be part of it, and he kept, this Big Pete says, "Oh, if you want to get," I said, "No, I don't want to be in the photo." I said, "Actually, but I want to tell you something." He said, "What?" I said, "None of this happens without you being here, and I want to say thank you, you know, because actually," and then you kind of, I've been like you that privilege, you know, I didn't expect things to happen that have happened because of Gibbons Alive, and you go backstage and things, and it's not, you know, as a 20-year-old, it's, hey, they're all having sex and they're doing drugs, and it's this and it's that, and it's a work, it's a workplace. It's a job. It's a workplace.
Yep.
It's really kind of, you know, and it's kind of, you know, learning that you kind of, it's that kind of thing, like, you know, speak when spoken to. You know, you pass person X, you don't kind of just go, hey, you know, it's his gig. You just, and if he wants to say hello, she wants to say hello, that's fine. If they don't, you know, you're not there to hang out and chat, and unless you're asked to, you know.
Yeah.
people like way back, I can't remember who it was, and I'm glad this was brought up. Someone was asked one thing, I'll just scroll back because I wanted to bring up those werewolves, but Heidi's saying she loves her werewolf. Yeah.
Ah,
And
Heidi. Another great person. Heidi's great. And again, I wouldn't have met Heidi without meeting Jamie. And that's just like almost proof of these people who are, if you didn't take the time and talk with them, and you wouldn't get to know them. And then you would miss the real blessing of meeting these people. And great people. But Heidi's, she's talking about a werewolf, and the werewolf paintings are, something I was inspired to make when I was hanging out with Steven Tyler one morning at his house, and I was driving home, and I'm like, what would he look like if he was an animal or a tiger or a lion or blah blah, and then it kind of was like it clicked. I'm like, what would he look like if he was a werewolf? And again, these things they're more whimsical, and they're a little more lighthearted. And I did those because I was burnt out from doing all these other jobs. I was so backed up with work, and I just needed a creative break. And all the artists out there are going to get it. They're going to go, I get it. And you just need to kind of just decompress and just go, I'm just going to screw around. Nobody's going to tell me what to do on this, and I just need to play. And these werewolves, for lack of better terms, it's a rock and roll werewolf. And if you look at it, you can see, that could be Steven Tyler. It was inspired by him. And some of these other guys that, you kind of backstage or hanging around with and going, and I put them up in my studio. I open my studio one day a year to the public. I don't normally open to the public. And I open it up one day a year, and I have an art show. And I just, for the hell of it, just put these 2 werewolf paintings up with all the sports stuff I do, because my stuff is usually loaded with sports or celebrity stuff. But they were the biggest hit. And I'm like, you like these? And and people started buying them. And I'm like, holy crap. And I couldn't paint them fast enough after a while. And it took a life of its own, which is great. And it's become my own line. I've had to have it copywritten and trademarked. And at one point, someone connected with the Ramones called to say, hey, can we license that out for and I work for Walt Disney too, which this is not connected to Walt Disney, but you learn the licensing world a little bit when you deal with Disney and you work with those guys. And so the werewolf kind of has taken on a life of its own, and now it's collected. Rob Gronkowski has a bunch of them all over his house. Steven Tyler has them in his house, and they're kind of these fun pieces, and you can kind of see these, there's all these cool stuff going on. And I put them all these bizarre situations, whether he's drinking coffee or playing a guitar or doing all these things. So it's kind of a fun thing.
I love that coffee thing. I love that.
And we here in America, we love our coffee. So, I mean, that's my biggest vice is coffee. Don't talk to me in the morning until I have my coffee.
No, well, I'm going to be slightly controversial. And
Go ahead.
How can you say, as Americans, you love coffee when there's your biggest coffee store doesn't even produce real coffee? Your biggest coffee chain. That's a personal opinion.
It doesn't even matter. That's how much we like it.
Yeah.
We don't even care if it's real. By the way, which chain are you talking about?
The one that sucks. Sounds a little bit like sucks. And has
Starbucks. Starbucks. See, I don't drink Starbucks.
That's not coffee.
I don't drink that stuff. For me, I like Dunkin' Donuts, where it's a different, like, Starbucks is too strong for me. It's like, and I drink black coffee, but I like Dunkin' Donuts. And up here in the Northeast, everybody's like this Dunkin' Donuts fanatic. Like, that's what we're hooked on. And then when you go out to California, you're like, what do you mean there's no Dunkin' Donuts out here? I can't drink this stuff. It's too strong for me.
That's that Dunkin' Donuts thing is like, it's like, I love baseball. I got into it. I got into it when I was over there in the 80s, on vacation, and there was playoff time, and I loved sports and this, that, and the other. And I'll listen, to the radio, games on the radio and this, that, and the other. And I'll, kind of follow, follow the Red Sox most, but it's kind of, I don't really have a team, but it's kind of like, I'll listen to the radio and America runs on Dunkin'. If I've heard that once, I've heard that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
That's a great slogan because I'm like, yeah. And anybody who knows, like people who just will stop by the studio and they're like, I brought you a coffee. Can I come in? You know, and they know how to bribe me because it's with a coffee, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's no plus. I'm just completely mucking about now, but there's no plus side, of course, to what the world's going through at the moment. Yeah. And especially not listening to, being able to watch for me or listen to baseball, but it's like, I don't have to hear the Safe Light Repairs jingle anymore.
Oh, yeah. The commercials drive me crazy.
And a friend of mine who's actually helped Given to Life massively, actually works with them, and he sort of gave us a little thing, and you push it and it goes, Safe Life Repairs, Safe Life Repairs. So yeah, we've got that. We've got, I know any minute now I'm going to get the 2-minute warning on my side of the screen, Brian. So, and I hate that they get the 2 minutes rather, because then it's like, that's so quick to sort of pull down, you know, to wind up. So anything you want to kind of bring up before we go, you know, before we kind of get to sort of saying see you soon and what have you?
That's a good point. I don't know. Just been great talking to you. It's you know, hopefully we'll be able to catch up again, and I'll be able to have worked with more charities, or maybe I'll actually. And I felt weird coming on because I'm like, I don't have any gig poster.
It's come up 2 minutes.
All right, here it is. We're into it. So maybe I'll have more people I work with, you know, that charity wise.
I've just seen a question. Tom, could you ask Brian about the painting of the soldiers behind him? And you got about 90 seconds.
So the painting was to help out, again, charity related. They're building a Vietnam memorial wall, a permanent wall here in Massachusetts. And the Vietnam veterans had come to ask me to create a painting that would help raise money for that wall. So that's the short version of that story. There's a documentary coming out on the building of that painting. It's interesting because I thought it was going to be a quick job, and it turned into 6 months. But that, you want to talk about meeting guys who have changed my life, is those veterans. And that's a made up painting, but we can get into that another time because that was a heavy project for me.
That's cool. So we got about a minute, 55 seconds. Somebody, totally nothing to do with this. Did I go to the London series when the Yankees and the Red Sox were here? I was like, no, but I have seen the Red Sox at Fenway when we took Steph to see her Fenway Pearl Jam show. This has just been a lot of fun. I knew it would be, Brian. I know for those who weren't here right at the beginning, I just want to say very briefly before we go, for Given to Life, this has been a really tough week. We work with a lot of mental health people with mental health issues. It's important for us to do that. And we had a call from a family member saying that one of the kids we'd taken to a show, or he wasn't a kid, a bit older, had taken their life. And this is to honor it with you. It's